It looks like teams are starting to try to hunt Alpy on defense and put him in those pick and roll situations.
It's been the case since I've been here, so no different there.
When I first heard this, I thought Rockets coach Ime Udoka was criticizing Alperen Sengun's defense. And judging by the reaction online, a lot of people thought the same thing.
But if my coach would have said this, like, oh, I'm used to this being the profile for Lou, I would have hated that being his response.
And I understand that reaction. If your coach publicly frames you as someone teams go at, it can feel like a label. But then this viral tweet happened.
Unless you got an uncontested lane, then you just take it.
Well, he is absolutely.
First off, we hear KD's disgust with Sengun's defense.
Unless you got an uncontested lane, then you just take it.
Well, he is absolutely.
And Sengun's dejected, nonverbal response. But let's look at this clip again. Sengun's job is to play drop coverage and lure the ball handler into their mid-range. But Knipple is one of the premier three-point shooters in the league. So Sengun does the right thing by stepping up on the hezzy move. Now, does he get beat? Yeah, but it's not from lack of effort, and everyone gets beat all the time in this league. If we're talking about playing some defense, then guess who was supposed to rotate over and help? Yeah, the guy who's pissed after the fact is the guy that just stood there while a teammate was hustling after the driver to the rim. If you don't believe me, here's the next play where Reed Shepherd rotates and gets both feet in the lane to help influence the decision to make one more pass, and everything was fine until the foolish reach-in foul on the shot. Now, let's not ignore what the announcer said about this play that got KD so upset.
Knipple is absolutely destroying Sengun. Anytime they cross-match and get switched on him, he's making such quick decisions.
Well, destroying is a strong word. Let's look at what he's referring to. Knipple had 13 points on 6 baskets in the first half, and 3 of those came when Sengun was the primary defender. I don't know if the Hornets had planned on Sengun switching onto Knipple since it was Jabari Smith Jr. who was late switching the initial screen we can't see. Because of that, Sengun must jump out to the shooter, and now he's on an island. Okogie is guarding a guy shooting 32% from 3. It would have been fine for him to offer more support on this mismatch, and I bet Sengun was worried about fouling so early in the game. But check the next possession when the Hornets actually target him in the pick and roll. Sengun limits his drop because of the three-point shot, switches onto the driver, and does an excellent job angling into the lane line and perfectly contesting this without fouling into a miss. Much later in the half, KD commits a bad turnover dribbling it off his foot, and now Sengun has no choice but to pick Knipple up in transition. There aren't too many centers that can handle an elite shooter with good driving ability, so the shot fake gets into the basket, and there's KD not helping again when he could have. If we examine the initial question that started this whole thing, it's clearly framed in a way that makes it seem like Sengun is being targeted and that the strategy is clearly working and necessitates some sort of adjustment from Udoka. The problem is, when you really go through this footage, it becomes clear that it's just not the reality. Anybody playing the center position by default will be involved in more pick and rolls than any other position. And the eye test shows me that Sengun's really pretty good on defense. They get a really poor defender in Reed Shepherd involved, and watch how Sengun refuses to be screened off in the lane and then subtly uses his body to influence a bad miss without drawing a foul. He's got good mobility both laterally and north-south, as he doesn't let the roller get behind him and then gets up to block this dunk attempt. He knows Diabate is a bad free throw shooter, so being aggressive on the block attempt is okay if it ends up putting him on the line. Sometimes good defense is trumped by better offense, which is why defensive stats aren't worth that much. Here's great recognition to switch on the flare screen, then he stunts at the ball, cuts off the drive, and absorbs the legal contact with his chest, and offers a strong contest of the shot they really want the offense to take. But then we'll see him show high to the shooter on the first ball screen, step up again, and then recover beautifully to not only get in front of the roller, but then send his shot back to a teammate. This wasn't even a pick and roll, as Okogie tries to pass Knipple off to Thompson, who gets knocked almost off his feet, leaving Sengun with very few options: allow a floater from 12 feet or give up a dunk to the roll man. But check how he's able to handle a 2-on-1 when Thompson gets caught running into the screen and 2 steps behind. He's keyed in on the ball and with beautiful footwork is able to retreat, get up in the air, and knock the lob away into a turnover. Great defense. So you can choose to believe that the offense wants to target Sengun, but I'd caution them to do this at their own peril, as at least as often as not, He's there to drop into proper position and provide enough pressure in obscure passing lanes so that plays like this lead to stops, as the roller can't see the ball on the pass and it directly causes the fumble out of bounds. So you might assume a big man opponent of the Rockets will go off on them, but I wouldn't put money down on that, especially when playing Prize Picks, where all you have to do is pick more or less on a variety of different categories. Tonight I've got a 3-pick power play which makes watching the games a lot more fun and can win 6 times my entry fee. The Clippers will struggle against this Rockets defense anchored by Sengun, as Mathurin and Collins will get less points, and I have Reed Sheppard getting more than 11.5 points on the other end. And you can choose Flex Play, which gets you paid even if you miss one of your picks. Follow me on the app so you can just copy my lineups, something you'll benefit from during basketball season. Best of all, download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. When I first heard the word targeting, I assumed it meant that teams were forcing Sengun to switch onto the ball handler out in the pick and roll, and they'd isolate out top and let their guards go to work. It turns out that rarely happens, and in the Celtics game, there were examples of great defense like this get action to Derek White, which forces Sengun to step up to the ball, and once he realizes the roll man got free, he hustles back to the rim and piggybacks on Amen Thompson's block attempts by getting a block of his own at the rim. Pritchard comes off the Garza ball screen and Sengun perfectly holds his position directly in the path to absorb legal contact. KD is supposed to switch onto Garza, but instead, through no fault of Sengun's, the ball ends up down low and they're forced to foul. On this get action, he picks up White well, thwarts the pocket pass by showing his foot, and there just wasn't any need for Smith to double the ball. Durant could have gotten aggressive off the non-shooter in the corner as well, and this results in a layup that isn't Sengun's fault either. One of the only real problematic defensive plays he made all night was this foolish attempt at a steal that directly leads to middle penetration. Amen should have rotated the corner, as there's no way any center is covering this much ground, and the Celtics make them pay. And this handoff out top finds him dropped into no man's land, as White gets a full head of steam and breaks up the normal 1-2 cadence to squeak by Sengun for the easy layup to start the blowout. But he also had this terrific defensive sequence where he jumps to the flare cutter, erases any hope of a drive by Shireman by moving his feet expertly, and when this resets to a new attack with Derek White out top, he shows to the ball until he's sure his teammate is back in position before closing out for a great contest of a 3 that happens to go in. This game got out of hand, which might explain why he completely fell asleep in transition on Garza and let him cut to the hoop for an easy basket. And then a curious out-of-bounds call that appears as if it should have been awarded back to the Rockets led to him disrespecting the ref in such an egregious way that there was no choice but to kick him out of the game. If he had to go through all manner of undeserved defensive slander to get to what he did in the OKC game, it might have all been worth it. One thing to take note is that the Thunder weren't playing their top 2 players, but the guys who did play are very skilled, and Sengun took care of business in a way that should help dispel this myth that he's a guy that teams can successfully target for buckets. There were so many great plays in this game that I can't include them all. So let's just focus on the possessions where the Thunder thought they could embarrass him with a simple ISO. Caruso has plenty of time to go to work out top, and Sengun says, "Highest." Basketball is remarkable for how often players get chances at redemption, so Caruso gets another shot a few minutes later. He's cut off on the drive, thinks he can just back up and let it fly, and Alpy swats that one out of the air as well. Isaiah Joe says, "Wait a minute, I deserve a turn after forcing a switch on the handoff. I kind of think Sengun dares him to drive on him here, right?" And Joe takes the bait but can't get by him, resorts to a midi step back, and excellent contest forces the miss. Chet says, "Hang on a second, pick on somebody your own size." So he goes to work with the mid-post ISO, almost gets him faked out, but can't connect on the face-up jumper. Case and Wallace wanted a piece as the Rockets started pulling away. So after the switch, he figures a gallop cross off-foot layup would do the trick, and nope. Wallace wanted some redemption, and this time Sengun coaxed the exact perfect shot he wanted, a heavily contested step-back fadeaway from 16 feet. Couldn't defend this better, but Wallace has the better offense on the shot. Isaiah Joe was able to blow by him out top, something that happens to everyone, and I love the rotation by Smith Jr. for the block while Sengun immediately takes Smith's man. Wallace again wanted to test out the big man with a double gap open on both sides, and Sengun stays square to the man, has active hands, and reduces the drive to a guy flailing on the floor praying for a whistle to end his nightmare. And Chet wanted one more turn as the game got down to the wire, and there's another great contest of the three ball into a miss, as the Rockets assumed control of the game and won going away, thanks in large part to Sengun's triple-double, but more importantly, the incredible amount of defensive plays he made in this game. So the next time you get into a discussion on social media about Alperen Sengun's defense, I want you to remember this analysis and take into consideration two things. He's the anchor of a top 5 ranked defense, and when you factor in his scoring and assists, he's creating over 37 points a game of offense. At most, he's directly responsible for giving up 12 to 15 points a game on the defensive end. So whatever criticism we'll have of certain games by him, he is far and away a positive contributor to a team that might not get to the finals or anything, but can make whoever does work really hard to get there.